Welcome to This Team Is Killing Us, a podcast about what the Carolina Panthers do to good people. She is Lauren Brownlow. I am Dimitri Ravanas. And Lauren, what is killing me today is, don't get me wrong, I love a win, but that feels like a lackluster Bryce performance to be the last one I see before being raptured.
Really? That's what we're going with?
Wow. It's all my kids wanted to talk about in the car this morning on the way to school.
Bryce Young or the Rapture?
The Raptor.
Okay. No, I mean, look, I think, I was honestly, okay with it. I thought he made plays when he, again, this is what you want, ideally, out of a quarterback, is just a guy that can make the winning plays. I mean, I know that sounds like a cliche, but, that's what we got out of him. He took care of the ball. He made some throws when he needed to make them. He was able to run a few times for some first downs when they needed them. I know maybe it doesn't, it's not eye popping, but it doesn't have, for who? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need that personally.
I'm going to be real honest. One, I thought this was going to send us down a Rapture rabbit hole. I was not prepared to defend my take. Two, I do think, to your point, look, Bryce had a really great second half against the Cardinals, but that second half was necessary because he had such a bad first half. He had a bad game against the Jaguars. It's a walk before you can run situation sometimes. Like we've seen, one of his greatest flaws in the NFL is he is a slow starter, be it in games, be it for a season. I don't think it is great for his long-term prognosis as a starter in this league, but it is what it is right now. And the Panthers did not ask him, or I guess the Panthers put him in a position where it did not have to ask him to do a lot. He had that scramble touchdown. He got a touchdown from his defense. The kicker was just on fire. I think that kind of performance, given the outcome of the game, I think it's smarter to view it as a step to being the guy that he's going to need to be when you get back into some of those wins, like so many of his previous wins were, that come down to the last 2 or 3 plays, or certainly the last drive of a game.
The relief for me when it comes to the Bryce thing, and I mean, if you want more Rapture stuff, yes, rapture me, daddy. Please, I'm ready. Take me away. I'm good. Thanks. This mortal coil, I've had enough. No, I'm just kidding. I just think for me, what it showed was that he had help. And I think that's a good thing. Was some of that help the Atlanta Falcons? Yes. However, we haven't gotten as much help as we would have liked from some of the opponents that we've played so far. So I do, that was an excessive amount of help, to be fair.
Right.
But at the same time, and then again, they were able to play complementary football, and that's just not a thing we have seen out of this team very much. We saw it a little bit in that comeback against the Cardinals, but they couldn't sustain it. And so for them to keep picking each other up, all of the units, the various units of play, that was really nice to see. And it was again, it was he had help. He had help from everyone, including the play calling and everything else, for the most part, you know what I mean? And so it wasn't all on him. And I think while I think he has shown that he is capable of putting a game on his shoulders if they need that out of him, we saw that out of him last year. I don't think that's an every week thing for him. That's not sustainable, And so I think it was a good sign to me that they didn't require that out of him.
So let's talk about guys associated with the Panthers needing help that got some help last week. Have you seen the locker room video from after the game?
No.
It really does have this air of those guys are so responsive to everything DaveCanales says. And I wonder, as much as you and I, and really the entire fan base has complaints about Dave as a coach and a play caller, those dudes want to play for him. And I wonder how much of this game was this team rallying behind Canales. I mean, before, Dave makes his statements after the game, and then Bryce cuts him off to make sure he gets the game ball before he presents it to anybody. Bryce makes sure Dave gets the game ball, not Bryce cutting him off to say, you know what, God damn it, I deserve the game ball. That team seems
power move.
Yeah, that team seems genuinely happy for their coach. It doesn't change the fact that I don't think he's a very good coach, but I think that is the bare minimum of what you have to improve, or what you have to improve your team's fortunes.
I think to me, there's a difference between like he's not a good coach, period, and he's not a good coach yet. And I tend to fall in the latter category, that he's not where we need him to be yet, because I think, and I do think a piece of it always, and this is the one thing that sold me on Ron Rivera as well. At a point where I thought Ron, because Ron a little older than Dave and a little bit more stuck in his ways, seemingly. Right. In ways that also drove me insane. I was getting flashbacks to the Rivera era when Atlanta ended up getting a delay of game out of a timeout. That happened to have that happen more than once, like enough that I remember it being a hallmark of the Rivera era is like upsetting in hindsight just to even think about. But like, yeah, and so those things like that, not going for fourth downs, whatever, but the guys always really rode hard for him, and he would generally ride hard for the guys, not all of them, whatever. And so I think people feel that way about Canales as well. And I think I, for the most part, have felt like he's done a good job with Bryce. Like, he has not thrown him under the bus. We maybe have read between the lines with some of the play calling in spots where we don't love it, but like, he hasn't said anything like that. It's not like he's come out and been like, oh, I can't call those plays because Bryce can't. You know what I mean? Like, he's not trying to protect himself by throwing his quarterback out as a shield, as we see coaches do. We see coaches do that plenty. Well, and he's not doing that.
He's doing just the opposite. And I don't even just mean with Bryce, right? Like you heard Bryce before the game last week echoing the level of faith and just confidence in XL that we talked about last week on the show, that DaveCanales was talking about. Like, they seem to be in lockstep, that they both believe when he gets it right, XL is going to be a weapon that not a lot of teams have as their number 2 receiver. And this isn't just XL, right? Like, DaveCanales' belief in a lot of guys that I would classify as question marks paid off in this game. Shaw Wade-Smith is a guy that we asked, like, is he capable of being on the field for every single down? Trevin Wallace and Christian Roseboom. Like, how many times?
Mike Jackson's
another one. Yeah. Like, how many times since the start of the preseason have we talked about, boy, the middle of this linebacking core seems really bad. And Roseboom was everywhere. Wallace had the first sack of the game. Yeah. I mean, I think there is, maybe it's that toxic positivity thing that Baker Mayfield talked about when Canales first came over. But there really is a feeling, or I guess the vibe I get from this team, I should say, is a feeling that they buy into his belief that nothing is impossible for this roster. It just takes taking advantage of the breaks when they come your way.
I think like there's a level of Delulu you have to be at when you have that kind of positivity to a degree that maybe people like you and I aren't fully capable of. I know I'm not. I try. I'm like, this seems awesome. I just can't make myself do it. I can't make my brain go there. But like, I think like it almost becomes contagious, and it's like, okay, you know, let's just keep our heads down. And we saw this last year. I mean, they had every reason to kind of give up on things last year down the stretch and like just give into it, and they just never did. And I think like the fact that he's out there and he rides for them and he doesn't throw them under the bus, I just think that that makes them a lot more responsive to him. He's also closer to their age. I've always said I think that matters, and I do think it matters. He knows how to relate to them without like screaming at them and trying to like exert his authority over them. I
think you see it especially play out in the way Bryce and his dad talked about Canales in that piece that Joe Person did at The Athletic before the season, where he was talking about rebuilding the trust and the relationship. Like, I don't know. And maybe, look, let's be fair. Frank Reich was his coach in his rookie season when he was as bad as we've ever seen a rookie quarterback be. But I don't know that I believe Bryce would have been as comfortable saying publicly that not like, I feel like for an older coach, for a guy that has established some sort of success,
you wouldn't say that. Yeah.
Right. Like Bryce basically said, or I guess through his dad basically said, like, hey, Dave Canales had to prove to me that he really believed in me as much as he was saying he was. And I don't think that you feel that kind of, particularly not this early in your career, you feel that kind of leeway with a coach much older than you from dealing with a different generation of players.
Well, and frankly, the older generation of coaches would be like, I don't have to prove shit to you.
Yeah.
Like, that's how they would operate as well. Like, they would be like, you have to come in and be a professional, and you have to play a certain way and act a certain way and be a certain way regardless. And that's just what they expect out of you, not understanding that, like, all right, in this day and age, like, sorry, it's just what it is. Like,
well,
you can't just demand blind loyalty and allegiance and like and authority without like proving something to these guys as well. Like, if you're coaching the Carolina Panthers at this point in time, whether you're Frank Reich or DaveCanales, like, you don't really have any like positioning to come in and be like, you must listen to me because clearly I know best. Because obviously you've made a few wrong turns.
Well, you know? So I was going to say, like, I think an older coach could do that, and they have the right to do that. But when your team is, what did they get to, 0-6 before they beat the Texans, and you are openly refusing to work with the rookie quarterback, like,
yeah,
how do you think that's going to go? So, yeah, I mean, like, I think there are approaches that Canales has that have certainly helped this team. I do want to talk a little bit about something that has continued through the last 2 weeks. And granted, we're only 3 games into the season, but each of the last 2 games, both of us have been able to point to a receiver and say, it looks like he and Bryce are very far from the same page. Last week, obviously, it was XL. As you go back and review the tape, XL had a very bad drop, but a lot of times Bryce was not putting it in the right place for him. You texted me this week and you said you felt the same about Bryce's connection with Hunter Renfrow. I thought you texted me right after a throw that I think was supposed to be low to make it only possible for Renfrow to get it. But I thought where Bryce put it, I thought Hunter had no chance to catch that ball. But tell me what you saw that led you to that point of view.
Yeah, I just think, like, look, we know one thing we know about Hunter is he's not like, and this is no offense to Xavier necessarily, but we know that, like, Hunter's got good hands. He's going to do everything he can to try to catch a football. And I just have felt, like you said, whether whose fault it is, I can't, we don't always know all the nuance there. We don't know what route, whatever. Yeah. We don't know all of the details, but for whatever it is, it's like, it's just not quite where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. You're not, it's like you said, like on that throw, they're just not quite where they need to be. And it's like, it's interesting to me because, like, I think he could be somebody that Bryce could depend on, but maybe there is just still that newness there of like developing that chemistry. I think he could be not quite, I don't know if I'd put him on the level of a Thielen, but a little bit. I think he could be that kind of a safety blanket for him, but they have to develop that connection. And right now it just doesn't seem like it's there fully. And I don't know what the reasoning is. Like, I'm not there all the time. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what routes are, I don't know any of that stuff. So, but I just think like that could be something that was really the only person he was throwing to with consistency on Sunday that I was like, I don't know that that's working today. That's usually always XL. And then this time it was Hunter for me. So
does it concern you that, so you bring up that Hunter could be the safety blanket that Thielen was. Does it concern you that right now, clearly Bryce's safety blanket is Teteroa McMillan? I mean, clearly that's the guy. Okay,
it does not concern me.
I was going to say it doesn't really concern me either, other than at some point, like, somebody is going to figure out how to take TMac out of the game for Bryce, like that, and that's going to throw him for a loop.
I hesitate to say this. I really do.
Yeah.
I do not think I have been this excited about a receiver for the Panthers in terms of how my belief level in them being that dude. People are going to be like, Lauren, and if he gets, I'm going to get clipped if he gets hurt in a week or something.
Right.
Since Steve Smith. And I mean that. And I don't mean early Steve Smith, because that's different. I mean, once Steve Smith was like becoming that dude as a receiver, and you're like, you just, there's this innate sense that like, that dude's going to make that play. Well, like, he's just going to make the play.
Here's why I don't think you are crazy for being that optimistic, is it's not just his ability. I go back to him and Bryce being on the same page. Yes. 3 times this season now, we have seen a pass that last year or the year before we would go, Bryce, what are you doing?
No one on the team can catch that.
Right.
And now they have someone who can.
And then you recognize it's thrown in a way that nobody else is going to be able to get that. Like that is Bryce knowing what he has and McMillan knowing what he has to do. Like it is a connection that, man, if Bryce were just a little bit further along in his development, I think we'd be talking about McMillan having already run away with the offensive rookie of the year. And if he would stop insisting on trying to catch the ball in the end zone with one hand.
It's like he wants the difficulty points, I know, but
Like you want to call him and say him like, this is not Noah Fafita anymore. You don't have to do that.
He's really special. And you can
absolutely.
And like I am, look, I'm wrong all the time, so I'm not going to be like, but I feel validated in like how sure I was that this was a great pick for them, because this is a different type of receiver than they've had in a long time for this team. I really believe that. Like, I'm not saying they haven't had really good receivers since Steve Smith. Like, that's not me saying that. They certainly have, but I don't think they've had anybody that you're just like Steve Smith would go out there as the only good wide receiver with like trash quarterbacks and still put up 100 yards. And I believe that like Tetairoa McMillan is good enough to do something similar. Like, I'm not calling Bryce a trash. That's not even what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying though. Like, I believe he's that good.
Because there are still things that TMac
there's still some throws that you're like, Bryce, it doesn't have to be that high.
For sure. And then there are things with TMac as well where it's like, buddy, two hands. It's total. Like there is, you see the seeds there of when they put it together, this team is going to be on a different level. I think we both know this entire fan base knows what it is they have in TMac. I mean, you see it anytime anyone online refers to him as Tet, because it's very easy to just type 3 letters. Like this fan base will rally and tell you, like, will pounce that he doesn't want to be called that, right? Like everybody has bought into this is our guy. And
please don't scare off our special boy.
Right. So here's my question. Do you just have optimism for him, or do you look around and see, man, when Jalen Coker comes back, man, if XL puts it together, look at what they're doing with Bryce and Tremaine. Does that sort of optimism for what can be extend to the entire receiving corps? We'll talk about the tight ends in a minute. I'm right now just talking solely about the wide receivers.
All except Xavier, sadly. And that's just because like I've seen it before, and it's not a him thing necessarily. Like, do I think he personally is capable of like just kind of getting through his own head trash and like figuring it out? Like, of course I do. But have I seen any evidence so far that that's happening? No. And in fact, if anything, it seems to be going the other way. And so, and like, actually, when I saw hamstring injury in my mind, I was like, oh, is that like Bryce's ankle injury? That was where my head immediately went.
Yeah, no,
and I was
the
actually like, I hate this. I was not happy to see that he might be hurt, of course.
Yeah.
It mostly because I thought maybe he wasn't, but also because I was like, I was relieved because I was like, because they're trying so hard to get him involved right now. And I think that has come at the expense of the rest of this offense. And so without him out there, they didn't feel the need to do that. And you saw some of those other pieces, even in the wide receiver. I mean, we saw a David Moore sighting, like, hello.
Right.
I was like, where's he been?
Right. Yeah, we saw not only a David Moore sighting, we saw a string of plays targeting Tommy Tremble early on in that game. I don't want to. So I'm going to go back to something we talked about last week. You talked about how much you hated the end around. And I said it is a college play that allows a future NFL Hall of Famer to take advantage of playing against a future attorney, right? I think the fear right now is that a lot of what got XL drafted was about what he could do against those future attorneys. I hold out hope that he is going
Dimitri, in the SEC, how dare you?
Lauren, you are only allowed to be an NFL star or an attorney if you play SEC football.
Okay, fair.
or own a car dealership.
I was going to say the car dealership is where my mind went, but yeah, go on. I was like, I didn't know that the academic curricula was so rigorous for safeties and linebackers and corners in the SEC.
I hold out hope that XL can be on the field what he has proven to be off the field, which is a guy people rally around and people are literally electrified by. Our friend Taylor Dahl, who hosts the Making Monsters, the Bears podcast, she texts me every week about something she saw Xavier Leggett do. Like, he has that effect on people that don't even care about this team. But those of us that do care about the team, and I don't know a better way to say it, so it will sound harsher than I mean for it to. Those of us that do care about the team see through the bullshit, and we need it to be real. I'm not saying I've lost faith. I think that if they can get it working, he can be a great number 2 wide receiver. But at the moment, he is not that, and I think that's okay to say.
Right, and I just need them, like, I know that the Delulu confidence has served them well in some instances. However, I don't think, like, continuing to try to make this happen as a thing is serving them well.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really serving X well either.
No,
like,
I
that's
agree.
The thing. It's really putting him more in the spotlight right now at a time where I don't know that he's ready to be in that place. And I think, like, that's not helping him.
Right. And because he's not ready to be there, what are you doing by forcing him the ball? You're stacking up failures. And that is going to weigh on that dude. I want to shift now to the tight ends. And I know you love him dearly and you hate to see that he is going to miss multiple weeks. But I do have to ask this. Is JTSanders the biggest loss yet in terms of guys going down in season? Because like he was putting it together this season in a big way.
Yeah, you'd have to refresh me a little. I'd say maybe one of the offensive linemen I might have a touch higher, but at the same, probably. Because even though it worked against the Falcons for a week, I don't know. So, I don't know how I feel about the rest of the time. We shall see. But yeah, I mean, I love him and I really feel strongly about his potential. And I think like it's not completely there with he and Bryce yet, but you see like it's starting to click a little. That was the thing that was so upsetting. Like you really saw it starting to click. And you're like, okay, yes, like now they're really on the same page. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no. And there's so many tight ends now. And then you add like, Bryson in the mix as a big tall guy. And it's like, wow, they have a lot of these types of targets. But at the same time, like I think Sanders is just as dynamic and as tall and athletic and all of those things.
Yeah.
And I think not having him stinks.
It's the what would be the word? The dynamism, the dynastic, sort of nature of the way he makes plays that some of those other big targets don't have. It's a high ankle sprain. Typically that means 4+ weeks out.
Hate that.
Yeah, it's the same thing that CeeDee Lamb has right now. And I think if the Cowboys say 3 weeks, I always believe that they are trying to tell you they are superhumans and not accepting medical science. 4+ weeks seems likely. Team says it happened on a play in the fourth quarter, but did not give any real specifics. Like I think he's down for maybe as many as 6 weeks. But we're going to be without him for a bit. I do
really
too,
hate it.
Because through 3 weeks, he has made 11 catches for 92 yards. He's been targeted 14 times. Like he is not letting a whole lot of balls that come his way hit the ground. There's a reason they moved him to tight end 1. I would say, and I don't know if this is me, I don't know if this is me channeling you or if this is really what's happening, but Bryce seems like to have this, like, you can see it on screen when he recognizes Sanders is open. He seems to have this like quick reaction, like time to go. And I think that I don't know that I would call him a safety blanket for Bryce yet, but it seems like that is another one of those guys, a group of young players growing together that Bryce is going to miss for however long it is that Sanders is out.
With the exception of Xavier Leggett, which I wonder how much of that is like not coaching mandated, but you know what I mean. I do sometimes think that Bryce has the same faves that I do. I wonder.
Okay.
I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh, I love that you threw to him. Like I get excited. I'm like, yay, you know, like, and you know, like he's tried it with Xavier a bunch of times, and it's not like I don't get excited when it works with Xavier. I do, but when it
just doesn't work that often. Yeah,
yeah, it's just, but yeah, I think and also like not to make a short joke, but like, look, he's towering out there. He's hard to miss.
Yeah,
you know?
So that is where I think we now talk about, okay, Sanders
maybe it's the Hunter Renfrow thing is the height situation. Like maybe
could be. I mean, now with Sanders gone, Trimble and Evans, Tommy Trimble, Mitchell Evans, both move up a spot on the tight end depth chart. I mean, the good news is both of these guys have caught every ball that has been thrown to them this year. The bad news is between them, that is a total of 9 passes. I do think that Tommy Trimble, he has experience with Bryce, and that is not so much important for Bryce as it is for Trimble, because like I think we have seen enough film breakdown to know, even as he got it together, Bryce's footwork is still unique for a starting quarterback in this league, and that means sometimes his timing is unique. But if Trimble knows what to expect from Bryce and he seems healthy, it's a downgrade, but I'm not ready to
you can trust
our hope.
That's the thing. Is he as dynamic as Sanders? Of course he's not. And that was the thing that we talked about even going into the season.
It's why Sanders got moved up to the top of the depth chart, frankly.
Right. But like, do we know he's going to block his ass off and he's going to catch the stuff that's thrown to him no matter where it is and go down with the football in his hands? Like, yes, we do know that. Yeah. And so like, great, like that check, you know? So we saw some other people start to step up. And so hopefully that, you know, continue. Honestly, like I told you, like Teteroa is so good that honestly, if he were the only receiving threat on this team, I'd be like, it's fine. We're good.
Well, see, I look at a guy like Mitchell Evans, and he's got some serious dimension to it. I mean, like he is a big, thick TMac. I mean, same kind of height. That's
your guy. Like Sanders is kind of like my intriguing like fave, and I think like Evans is a guy you really like.
So I like Sanders a lot more. I think that Evans, I would rather, my hope is Evans eventually overtakes Trimble and Trimble becomes expendable, because I think Bryce needs more of those big dudes you can just put it up to and let them make a play. It's pretty clear to me, based on the way they've used Evans, they don't think he's ready to do that quite yet.
Yes, agree.
And so, look, I guess the good news is he gets he gets an opportunity to grow, and there are going to be times where he and Bryce are forced to see if this thing works before they're comfortable doing it. And that's a good thing. I just don't see a way around. Like, there's no way you're not going to miss Jatavian Sanders for however long it is he's out. He has come to mean too much, especially on third down, to Bryce Young.
I love him so much, though, that I'm like, if he or Teteroa aren't getting the ball, I sometimes get sad. I'm just like, I'm like, oh, I missed them getting it. Like, I throw it to JT. Like, I'm just like,
I wish I could remember. I think it was against Arizona. There was a play where Bryce threw to Renfrow, and it was a pass that went for a decent amount of yards. Like, Hunter caught it for a first down. And there was a part of me, like, I think I am very similar to you, because there was a part of me that saw Sanders open, significantly shorter, by the way, of where Renfrow was, and was still not happy he didn't throw to Sanders and let him go make
try to make something happen. Yeah. So, but you did sell me. I will say this: when he was drafted, I wasn't a fan of like the Evans pick. I didn't like it very much. And you kind of sold me on it. And so this will be an interesting time to see like what he's ready to contribute. But I even said, I agree with you. I said the same thing at the beginning of the year. I was like, I don't think that was my thing with Evans is like, I don't know when they're going to, maybe that's just like we have this guy around in case things go awry or whatever. But like, it was kind of one of those things of like, I don't know how they're going to incorporate him in when they just re-signed Trimble and they have Sanders and we think he's great. But obviously like, hey, this is a situation where they clearly need him now. So, all right, let's see.
It was coming off of the McMillan pick. It also, remember they had signed that dude that was a basketball player at Coastal, or I think he was at Coastal, and he came out of UNC Asheville, Maybe. Anyway, whoever it was, to me, Evans was like, okay, this is a commitment to doing this big, tall target thing for Bryce in a serious way, not, hey, here's a basketball player that's never touched a football before. Speaking of Bryce, did you see we got another Carolina Reaper moment this week? Ike Hilliard, the Falcons wide receiver coach, was the fall guy for that game, lost his job after the loss to the Carolina Panthers. Lauren, their next 3 games are very winnable. Like,
Don't do this.
I mean, it's bad teams and the Cowboys, who have the talent but can't put shit together.
I was like, bad teams and the Cowboys? Or...
Right. No. Okay, so very fair. After last week's performance, Annie and I went to get sushi, and the game was on, and I was trying to have a conversation with my daughter, but at the same time, mouth agape in disbelief at what Chicago was doing to Dallas in that game. I think I've identified a Carolina Reaper casualty on each of these teams for the next 3 weeks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So if the Patriots lose to Carolina, it is obviously Josh McDaniels, right? Like, it is obvious that is the worst rushing team in the league. They have not been able to complete a comeback all year long. And I think personally, if I'm Mike Vrabel, I am eager to get rid of all of these Belichick guys that were forced on me. And as I understand it, no one likes Josh McDaniels to begin with.
Well, no one does. I mean, we hear that all the time about him. So, I mean, look, that probably, I would imagine so, especially because, like, look, we do, one thing we know about this Panthers defense, well, we know a couple things. One, the shutout was slightly deceptive.
Sure.
And that's okay. I will take it. That doesn't mean the defense didn't play great, because they did. But it was slightly deceptive. It's not like they just, although they did keep them out of the red zone completely. So, like, there is that. Maybe it wasn't so deceptive, but, like, this is still a defense that statistically was like the worst in NFL history or whatever it was last year. So, it had shown tendencies of continuing to be that type of a defense through the first couple weeks, even if, like, those of us watching were like, well, we see, some of us were like, we see some signs of improvement here, even if there's still a long ways to go. So, like, yes, I think that's the way they're viewed still. And so that's the way it's going to be treated if you cannot move the football against them. Yes.
Yeah. Miami. I mean, it's Mike McDaniel, right? Like, it is almost like,
well, he's already heading that way. So it's not great.
It's almost like they are setting the guy up to, we just cannot forgive losing to Bryce Young and moving on from the guy.
Well, because I remember in week 1, people were like I was like, oh no, we have the worst defense in the league again. And I think I was talking to my dad or something. He's like, and I was raised a Dolphins fan, and so he still pays attention to them, even though he doesn't care as much. But he's like, I don't know. What about the Dolphins? He's like, you see what the Dolphins are doing? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, geez, okay.
I'm gonna take you behind the scenes on a conversation between Joe Ovius and I. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Okay. I was filling in for Gilio the other day on the OG, and we were talking about I don't know if it's like just NFL coaches in trouble or whatever. And I said that this is becoming totally clean. I said that Mike McDaniel now looks so stressed. It looks like he wakes up at the bar. And Joe told me he did not feel comfortable putting that in the recording because he is genuinely worried about the guy. Like, it really does feel like the wheels have come off in Miami. And everybody would be done a favor if they cut bait.
Maybe the better way to say it would have been like, those pictures of, like, they do the thing of the guy, like, when he took over the presidency and then when he gets out.
Yeah.
And it just looks like you're like, oh, Jesus.
Have you ever seen, that there's a picture that people use regularly of a baby orangutan with, the sort of bald head, but whatever little hair he has is almost like straight up, and people use it as like an avatar for being confused. That is what Mike McDaniel looks like right now most of the time. Finally, the Cowboys. There's a caveat here.
Yeah, of course.
If Chuba has a breakout game, or if Chuba and Rico Dowdle together just go off, it could be anybody, because stopping the run is the only thing the Cowboys do well. Otherwise, it is Andre Curtis, the defensive passing game coordinator for this team, because, A, they have not stopped anybody from throwing the ball. in this league. And again, I think despite the fact that those of us that watch them every week see improvements both physically and in leadership, I think there is something about Bryce Young going off against you that makes GMs feel like this is inexcusable.
100%. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Even though, like, of the two units, I think there is still probably an understanding of, like, yeah, but it depends on how it looks, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, if he's just out there throwing bombs and it looks like it did last Sunday, yeah, I mean, somebody might be fired at halftime.